Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from here in Jyväskylä. By the way, Sarita, not all participants are here in Finland. There are participants from different countries at the moment. So good afternoon from here
Wonderful.
in Jyväskylä. It's a snowy day. Welcome to the 8th session of the course Current Trends in Development Policy. For today, we're very lucky to have um, a resource person who's a practitioner um, in development policy, Dr. Sarita Friman. And Sarita would be able to introduce herself, but I know that she's our alumna from the Department of Social Sciences and Philosophy, and also, of course, from the University of Jyväskylä. For today, for our virtual field trip, we are going to visit the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health, particularly the International Affairs Unit, where Dr. Freeman is a ministerial advisor. So for today, we'll be having a topic entitled Global Health and Development. So you now have the channel, Dr. Freeman or Sarita.
Yes, thank you so much for your invitation and for your kind introduction. You may call me Sarita. I think that would be more familiar with me. I'm very, very pleased to be here. And when I received this invitation, I was, of course, very excited because it is indeed my home university where I have masterate from the political science and also have a doctoral degree on the political science as well. And I have specialized in rhetorics, and of course I have many other subjects what I have studied as well, and perhaps at the end we can discuss on my path and on your path if you wish to do so. I have prepared you on a slideshow. We can follow it, but we don't. But I would very much like to have a active and interactive discussion with you, and I'm very pleased to reply on your questions. And perhaps I do not have the answers on everything, but certainly we can always discuss. And I have been working here in the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health. You may change the first slide, please. A long time. I've started already in early 2000, and but I have to say that the world is very different and the work in the ministry is very different from what it was almost 18 years ago, and certainly this last year has changed it even more. But the Ministry of Social Affairs is to task also on global health, and today we are going to discuss on the global health and development point of view, and I will highlight some current priority issues and share with you as a practitioner my views about the development on the policy making processes, where again this last year and last years have been very exciting. And finally, if you wish to do so, we could have also some career insight discussion. Thank you. The first slide, please. So the mission of my ministry is to be in charge of planning, guidance, and implementation of the health and social policy in Finland and in regional and global areas. And our mission is to safeguard people's ability to work and function. And we are part of the Finnish government, so in that sense we are not independent at all, and in many respects we are also part of the EU, and I think I will refer to that many times in my presentation. We have reviewed our strategic vision a few years ago, and our vision is to create a cohesive society and sustainable well-being. Our goals is active inclusion of people, sustainable financing, well-being in the transformation of work, safe and healthy living, and working environment, and integrated services and benefits. And our values are based on equity, courage, and transparency. Thank you. The next slide, please. And currently, I am working in the International Affairs Unit as a ministerial advisor and the deputy director of the unit. And in short, this unit is to develop, plan, and coordinate international affairs in our ministry administrative sector. And I've been working in many departments and with many files before I came to this unit last September. And I started first in minority issues, and my core files have always been files on equality, on human rights, and on minority issues. But I have had many different files, and I've been going from department to another, and then changing the content and the subject quite frequently, especially in the last years. I've been working with, for example, with the mental health, with the aging, EU social dimension, and EU funding, to name some. But in all my previous duties, the EU and the international affairs have been an essential part of everything what I've done. So I think that is one of the reasons why I've ended up in this international affairs unit, and I'm very happy to share with you our work and discuss it further. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is a terrible slide because it has so much text on it. But maybe I can only take some issues out of there. The main thing, perhaps for us, our unit is not very large. It's maybe it's 16 persons at the moment, I think, and it coordinates our sector's activities in all intergovernmental cooperation bodies, and these include, for example, and perhaps most importantly, European Union, WHO, and other UN bodies, Council of Europe, and the Nordic Council of Ministers, where the Finland is chairing this year, Arctic Council, Parents, Euro-Arctic Council, OECD, and many others. And we take part in international EU meetings, and we are engaged in advocacy with other states and international organizations. The multilateral work is the core, but still we have quite a lot of bilateral cooperation agreements between Finland and other countries in the field of the social and health sector, and for their implementation. And for example, the social coordination treaties are part of this bilateral cooperation. We coordinate ministries' involvement in export promotion and other high-level cooperation, and very often they have to do, nowadays they have to do with the health technology or some social innovations regarding, for example, aging issues. And what we do also every day, that we prepare minister and other high-level officials trips and meetings. Now they are online, of course, but it doesn't say that it's any easier with having online meetings than the physical meetings. Quite the contrary, I would say. But in practice, our work is a lot of coordination. It is a lot of writing memos, lots of writing speeches, speaking points, and cooperating with other ministries and other stakeholders, and of course with other countries as well. So this is very there is a lot of diversity in our everyday issue, both in terms in substances and practices. Thank you. Uh, Now I have briefly presented you the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health and our international affairs unit, but of course we have guiding principles and programs behind us, so we are not independent in any ways. And it is always the governmental program of Finland which we follow in our lines. And the government do change, of course, in the due of time, and therefore there are also these very long-standing principles and legislation. And for us, the multilateral cooperation and international treaties and conventions, along with national legislation, is of course the basis on what we work. And Agenda 2030 is something I would like to pick up as something what is needs to be linked on everything what we do, what we are trying to achieve in order also to achieve the SDG goals. And many, basically all of our work in multilateral forums is based on EU coordination. As a part of the EU, we speak as a one voice, and that same applies also in global institutions. That first we have the EU coordination, and then that will be our standpoint. But addition, we also have our national interest which we drive, and also have a bilateral negotiations with international organizations as well. But we always have to stick on the EU coordination. And Finland is quite interesting in that respect, that we also have the national EU coordination mechanism, meaning that we do not have the stance on any singular civil servant or ministry, but it's always it is a Finnish standpoint, and we have a special coordination system to build that stand on every EU issue what we have. And then we have these principles, especially here in the field of social affairs and health. And one of them is health in all policies. This dates back to the Finland's previous 2006 EU Council's presidency, where we promoted health in all policy approach, which meant that health should be regarded in all policy making, and it has really it has been a success. You may see the health in all policies in basically, if not all, but in majority of the documents dealing with the health policies. Then we have the whole of government, whole of society approach, which means that our standpoint is that in any file, no one can achieve what they want alone, but we have to work across the sectors, both in the government and also with the rest of the society, meaning NGOs or academia or businesses or congregation or with every part what our societies are consisted of. And finally, economy of well-being is another approach, a new approach which we promoted in our last EU Council's presidency, 2019, and we came up with during the Finnish presidency. The Council conclusion on the economy of well-being. I was a part uh, of that team preparing those, and now our aim is to include the approach in both in national policies and in our EU and international policies. And the basic idea of the economies of well-being is to see the interconnection between the social health and economy and environment. And the COVID-19 pandemic has proved it true in the ways we perhaps didn't wish to see, but that is one of the health risks which has become reality. And our approach is that in order to build back better, as the saying goes, especially in the SDG language, is that we have to work outside of silos, and we have to increase the role of the metrics and data in the decision making from the point of view that what kind of effects the decisions have on the people and to the planet. To put it short, thank you. Now this slide is on global health. My personal background is more on equality issues and on the social field, and I've been dealing with health only since the last summer, but it has been very exciting time, of course. Our units and what Finland is active is regards the public health and its determinants, different kind of determinants in global context. It means that we take part with the policy measures, research, and different development in order to promote public health and decrease health equities globally. Cross-border threats is of course one of the main areas, and it does include also political, social, human, and economic implications, and I would also add the environmental. And my colleagues also are involved with health-related development work. I am not so much myself. And the global health architecture is something which is, I think, is in move very much now. And the situation has changed a lot in last year, not only because of the COVID-19, but also the overall world politics situation where multilateralism is not so respected by everybody. And there are countries who have wished to withdraw from the different kind of international normative governance, but now it seems like that it is going back perhaps to the better direction. And of course, when we talk about health, there are also considerable political and economic interests. The medicines and medical devices are one example of that of the economic interest. And now I'm again bringing up to COVID-19, which has brought, for example, the vaccination diplomacy and the health diplomacy in general as a greater part in the world politics. So this is a quite interesting field to work with. Next slide, please. The main organization in global health, I'm sure you you know this already, is of course the World Health Organization, and I am not having now the presentation on what WHO does. In general, maybe we can discuss later what role it has and what kind of implications you have on it. But the WHO is the only normative body in international health, and therefore it is it is very important, and Finland has been for a very long time invested a lot in supporting and in developing WHO work. And as a small country, I can quite boldly say that our we are much more influencer in the WHO and other organizations as well, but especially in the WHO than our size would indicate, and that is because of in the field of social affairs and health, WHO has been historically the organization where we have worked a lot, and we have a very good relations also in bilateral terms with the organization. And I think that that is also the reason that when WHO is in reform process, that they also pay attention on Finland's view on how it should be restructured and reformed. Thank you. And I've also mentioned the SDG goals few times, and Agenda 2030 and the SDG goals are the reference point on everything on what we do and what we try to achieve. And I used to be, since until last fall, responsible in Finland in this SDG goal number 3, good health and well-being, which is very, very vast. It includes lots of different areas. But also in terms of economy of well-being, we see that we cannot achieve any of these goals without support and proceeding also in another goals. And I just brought this slide up to sort of highlight the meaning and importance of these goals. And the current EU Commission, it's on the same page. You may see in the Commission's initiatives and political and legislative initiatives as well, that they are also having the SDG goals as their ultimate goal also for the Commission. Thank you. So what is current issues in the global health now? So it's very clear that COVID-19 response and preparedness has been number one topic over a year now, and it has very much changed everything what we do, or it has an influence on everything what we do. both in national and international terms, not only in terms of acute responding, but also on how to restructure, redesign the world afterwards, and how to be prepared for new crises, which will most certainly be something else than communicable diseases. It could be something else, but it has shown that sort of the force of the international threat to become a reality, and how we should in future be prepared. Uh, we have seen the interconnection between health and well-being, economy and environment, and that's why we are pushing the economy of well-being approach in recovery in very many areas where we work, in the EU, in the WHO, in the UN, and OECD, for example. And I could have another presentation on the economy of well-being, which is very interesting, but maybe I'm just settle at this point here. And part of what we do in WHO, in EU, in OECD, and other institutions at the moment is that we are drawing lessons to learn. We can quite honestly say that no country was prepared enough for the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we should learn a lesson that what kind of societies and what kind of measure have succeeded and what have not. And I am personally, for example, ministerial advisor in so-called Monti Commission, which is commission established by the WHO Euro, and the Finnish official representative there is former President Halonen, and I'm her advisor. And one of or the main task of that commission is to learn and also see that how the economic, health, social and environment and technologies also are interconnected, and how we can build a better societies and more sustainable economies as well. And one of the lessons learned regarding to COVID-19 is the role of the multilateral cooperation and WHO role in leading the global health. I mentioned already earlier that in recent years there have been countries, namely US, who have been withdrawing from the multilateral cooperation. We have the EU, which has not shown so much or at that level leadership what was expected already before the COVID-19. Then we have countries which pursue more sovereignty and national leadership on the expenses of multilateral cooperation. So this has been seriously challenged in last few years, but now the COVID-19 has shown in very practical terms the importance that we have a cooperation, that we have ongoing discussion, and we exchange information, we reach the consensus, and we build and come up with solutions which are solidar to all countries in the globe. And it has also put the WHO on the tests in many ways as well. And then maybe in more practical terms, we are preparing a new cooperation models. And one of the example of them is the vaccination support at the global level as well. Could I have the next slide on this theme, please? Uh, Many of my colleagues are working hard on the capacity, developing the capacities of the health safety preparedness, also at the national, EU and international level. We are increasing cooperation in Africa and strengthening the regional capacity of Africa. Finland is currently preparing a new Africa strategy, and also EU has a new approach on Africa. And I think that the Finnish one isn't ready yet, but I can already say that both in our national strategy and EU's approach is to highlight companionship with Africa, comparing to the sort of old style teaching teaching style of politics, if I may say. Digitalization and data policy has been proven already to be part of the solution, also in this COVID-19 preparedness and recovery, but also outside of the COVID-19 as well. And our ministry and Finland in general and EU are very investing a lot and putting a lot of faith and also funding on digitalization, and what is very European and very Finnish in our policies is that our data policies start with protection of individual data, and we have a quite high legislation and high standards there, and that is different from other policies where what we see in different parts of the globe, and that is something that will be very important, for example, when we talk about decoupling between China and US and Europe, also because our approaches to the data policies are very different. Gender equality is a principle what is important to us, and we include the demands on gender equality on basically every initiative and every act what we do, and we also want to underline the woman's role in health security. And gender equality is therefore a vital part of our global health measures and actions. Measures against AMR, eli antimicrobial resistance. This is every time very, very hard for me to pronounce. This was on my view on the top of the agenda before the COVID very much. It still is very important, and will be doing so until we come up with better solutions there as well. But now we are very eager to see that what kind of new initiatives we are having in EU and international forums. But this is not my specialty either. And then we are highlighting the connection between the health, climate, and environment. And one health approach, which means that there is only one health for the people, for the animals, and for the globe, and when we make decisions, we have to take all of them account as one. So here are just some glimpse on the areas where we are working on the global health issues at the moment. Thank you. Okay, then this is my own personal view as a practitioner's view, and maybe I've said some of these already. Uh, uh, One cannot work in the area of health and social affairs without noticing the impact of the COVID-19. Uh, it has been an acute issue over a year to solve already now, and still we know very, very little about the disease. And still we have to react on the new information and the ever changing circumstances now, for example, regarding the variants and problems or difficulties with vaccine supplies. But beyond that, the COVID-19 has sort of shaken our very systems and how they function, how we think about them. At least that is what we think now. So sometimes it seems like that the peoples and nations and human kinds of memory is sometimes short. So it will be very interesting to see that does this understanding of the interconnection between different areas also remain in future action and political decision making. We have clearly seen the need for the multilateralism and cross-sectoral cooperation at all levels. This means that uh, if I take a very concrete example now at the EU level, the health has been an area where the competence is on the health area is mainly on the member states, and at the EU level it's more on for example on non-communicable diseases and prevention of diseases and that kind of work, but the capacity competence in general is at the national level, and it has influenced historically the work of the health ministerial council. But now when during the last year we have been having health ministerial councils weekly, sometimes twice in a week, which means that there is a great need for an active discussion and negotiation between the member state and the commission on how to solve many of these issues, not only regarding the disease itself, but also on traveling, on other preparedness issues, on vaccines, of course, and many others. There is no file where the COVID-19 hasn't changed. And now when we are coming up with the different uh, exit plans, it just cannot be done without discussion and multilateral cooperation and discussion. And it's also important in terms of coming out of the sectors. We cannot solve the traveling or economic or employment crisis without co-working closely also with the uh, uh, health side and social side as well. And I would also like to point out that there is a need for the vertical cooperation as well. When we have a pandemic which is local and global at the same times, and at the national level, we have to have a straightforward relationship from the community and municipal and regional level to the other ministries and to the EU and all the global for us. So it does require a lot of coordination, but all these have to be on board in order to get through. And it has been a challenge for the EU to present itself as a global actor. And I already mentioned that there has been room for a global leadership, which EU hasn't for some reason managed to take. That is an interesting area of itself. But Finland sees that the EU should strengthen its role globally, and also EU's unity in global arenas is important. And if I take one example on the EU's unity, and as I mentioned at the very beginning of my presentation, is that in a global for us, we speak as a one voice in the EU. But in the last few years, especially in our sector, but it has gone as well, it is more and more difficult to find one common standpoint from the EU between the EU member states, and this concerns especially the gender issues, the LGBTQI issues, and HR, social and reproductive health and rights issues, where we are going backwards, and it has been very difficult to find wording, and many conclusions have been we haven't reached the consensus, and in the, for example, in the WHO or in different other UN institutions, if we cannot find a consensus, then EU just in very practical terms, it just cannot have a speech by the EU, and that very often leads to the situation where the human rights language and the gender language and other languages, what I just mentioned, is being weakened and challenges in very dangerous manner. But now it seems like that the US change of administration has showed very strongly that they are going back to supporting the gender equality and other human rights as well, and how we of course hope that will make the work at the global level also easier. Then finally, I would raise out the issue of trust society. I receive some of the question what you have sent me in advance, and I believe it was one of them which asked that or that what kind of societies have really succeeded in beating the COVID-19, and I would say that the societies where there are solid infrastructure in terms of social and health services and support system, when there are democratic constructions in order, and where there are functioning civil society and functioning press, have been doing in general quite well. Of course, there are differences as well, but in Finnish case, that I think that the one reason why we have succeeded in the way we have is that we have a good uh, infrastructure, and we have a social and health policy which is universal, and we have despite of many criticisms, still very functioning institutions at all level, and we have a civil society which has been taking taking part of supporting people uh, uh, during the COVID crisis as well. But there is also one thing what you can see at every level is that the role of the disinformation and misinformation question also for you is that that is perhaps something that where we have to be more strategic about and take the disinformation, misinformation, and data seriously when we are redefining our strategy at all levels. And okay, maybe at this point we could have this career insight, but I've been now working, speaking a long time, so now I would be happy to discuss with you, and then if you want to, then I can also talk you about of my path and what kind of sort of career insight you would like to hear, and of course answer or discuss on your questions. I don't claim that I do have answers on everything, but thank you very much so far for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. I was speaking and I was muted. Thank you very much, Sarita. That was very informative and insightful, and also encouraging for our development students. We're now opening the channel for questions, and actually, I think when Sarita read the Google Docs, there were just only about 10 or 12 questions, but then. I saw it recently. It has more
Well,
questions now, so you can voice out your concerns at the moment. And for me, I'm actually I'll c- let's collect in questions, but maybe I can start picking up on the career insights. So, how is it working with uh, the former president Tarja Halonen? And then, secondly, on global health policy making, to what extent do you also take into account the role of the private sector? For instance, it's kind of controversial at the moment. Like in health policy, we always would like to promote, prevention as a framework, and there's this increasing critique, especially coming from academics, that private companies, multinationals, particularly pharmaceuticals, don't have interest in prevention. And then how about the others? I can see some hand here. Just switch on your mic and then please ask question. I think Rebecca is smiling.
Um, yeah, I just have my camera on to be polite, but sure. I'm happy to ask. One question I was thinking about, and you kind of touched on this, was that after the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, I know the WHO said that we weren't prepared for this and we have to do better. But now it seems like, again, with the COVID outbreak, we're not prepared and we have to do better. So do you think now it's been, I guess, catastrophic enough that things will change and that it will improve, at least in the multilateral organization?
I think we can get one more. Um,
Yeah,
Ahi,
sure.
Yes,
I,
thank you for your presentation and your time. I just have one I need one clarification. You've mentioned and you've emphasized like the need of cooperation. And there was like the US withdrawing from WHO and like EU not being the stronger like leadership in like a global community. Would you think that WHO could be like the role, like could take this role of like global leadership, or since the members of WHO are like the states, like other states, it would have to be like one country or like EU that needs to take this role to have little more authority or to have little stronger leadership.
I think Sarita, you can.
Okay, thank you. I hope I picked up your questions. First, to your question on the private sector. Uh, well, one of the SDG goals is to increase the cooperation between the governments and private sector and civil society organization. I think is the SDG number 17. That is, of course, a nice goal, but it is challenging, especially in the pharmaceuticals. The role of the private sector is. Is Well, it is essential since usually it is not the states or the governments which produce medicines, and we can also see the lack of many medicines globally. So it is a global challenge, not only to the governments but also to the pharmaceutical as well. I think that the Finland's approach is that we sort of we trust on the businesses that they know what they are doing, but they have to follow the legislation. What we have, that is a very put bluntly, that's how it is. And Finland has been active in involving the private sector in the development work as well. But at the same time, there has to be, of course, the distance between the private and the governmental sector. And I'm not sure if you're interested in, but this. I, I mentioned that I used to work with aging issues for a while, and during the Finnish EU presidency, we organized a huge global silver economy forum in Helsinki, and I was the secretary general of that forum, and that was for me very eye-opening experience, because it was quite challenging under the EU Finnish presidency's flag to organize a global conference in cooperation with American businesses. And it wasn't even the building up the agenda and the program was very challenging. And there I could see very clearly that even though the businesses are taking their sustainability uh, values more seriously, it is in practical terms it is very demanding to put it together with the governments and with the international institutions, and keep enough the distance. And it requires a lots of negotiations. It requires a lots of so-called MOUs, But I'm not sure if I'm answering to your question, but it is challenging. But I would say that while we recognize the need that we need businesses in many areas, because we are not producing many of the products or provide that kind of services what the businesses do. But at the same time, I would say that the ethics um, in general, at least in Finland, is very high on this respect. And I would say the same on the WHO as well, from my experience. And then there was the second question on what did we learn about Ebola, or did we learn anything? It has been claimed that one of the reasons why Africa has been doing quite well in during the COVID-19 crisis compared to Europe and other Western or Northern countries could be exactly the Ebola and other communicable diseases, because there are more know-how, there are no structures and preparedness in general for the communicable diseases, comparing the Western and Northern states, where we have sort of alienated ourselves from that kind of epidemic and pandemics. Even though they don't have the same kind of laboratories or high technologies to support them, still the many African countries have succeeded well, and this is one area where I would say that we should be learning from African states and not vice versa. And I think it is a question of many dollars of that did we learn? Will we ever learn? That and that is why we are also approaching the economy of well-being also in the future measures to keep in mind that we have to prepare in many ways, because I would say it also a false move to make to prepare the future preparedness plans only on the communicable diseases, because we don't know what kind of crisis will be the next one. It could be on pollution, it could be on water, it could be on shortage of some medicine, it could be anything. So we have to be prepared in very wide respect and terms, and that's why we have to cooperate and be very open-minded also to the areas which are outside of our field of working. And then there was a third question or the clarification concerning the EU's need of come up stronger in its leadership. On the role of the WHO, I would say, I just repeat, it is the only normative international body what we have. And that is its role. It is not a practitioner in that sense. It is a normative and legislative body, and that is what is its role, and that is what it should be. And the role of the EU would be as an EU and also in other international forums is to be united and also express better of the development work what it does, and for example the solidarity work what they're doing in terms of vaccines, for example. And this is my personal view, but for some reasons it seems like the EU seems to fail on communicating it advances not only to the EU citizens but also to the external areas of the EU of how much it does and what kind of policies it does and how much is, for example, funds uh, close and external areas and Africa and research and many other fields which goes beyond the EU borders. And that would be one way of taking the leadership. But in the international forums, I don't think that we cannot have a EU leadership without united, uh, not united, but sort of the shared understanding of the EU itself. If we
Yeah,
have 2 or 3 countries which are drawing all the time, then it is not a one EU.
yes, Sarita, picking up on that also, there's this, you mentioned about civil society and developing countries. To what extent are the current calls from many civil society organizations in developing countries on, let's say, the people's vaccine? Yeah. To what extent are those concerns being considered by the Ministry of Finland, by your office? Um, again, the people's vaccine, and in particular, the call to suspend trips, the suspending intellectual property and patents so that we can easily mass produce vaccines, especially for the developing countries.
Yeah. Finland has been a very, very strong supporter of the COVAX program. COVAX program is the WHO program on solidarity on vaccinations against COVID-19. It has, I don't know how aware you are of that. It hasn't been so much in public discussion present, but that is I would say one of the very encouraging, if not news, but processes. So COVAX is a solidarity program which aims to guarantee vaccines to every country, to every people in the world, and each EU itself and EU member states where we have sort of reserved vaccines many times more than we have people inhabited Europe. One of the reason is that we have the quotas by the country and by the EU also to the COVAX program. But it is not only the EU; it is all over the world. And for example, the China has joined the COVAX and many others, and that is the very strong will of Finland and many other countries as well, that we need to be solidarity and also express it in very practical terms. What we did not anticipate was the slowness of the vaccination and the difficulties what we have in those supplies. But we will, I'm sure that in sooner or later we will get to those numbers where we have achieved and we can distribute the vaccines globally all over. I think that this is again my own personal view, is that there are so many the countries are at so different level. So the developed countries will be taking care of themselves, that is clear, and I think that also the poorest countries are part of many programs. It is perhaps the countries which are at the middle which could be in practice more difficult to reach. But I have a strong faith on the COVAX program as soon as we get the number of the vaccines what we have been expecting for.
Yeah. Any other questions from the floor? Yeah, just vision. I've been reading I've been reading their questions in Google Docs, and I think many of them have been addressed. Like, yeah, the role of the private sector, and Tinia also mentioned about inequalities. Um, and then one thing which I actually included in the readings for this session is this uh, work and program by the World Bank on universal health coverage. Does your unit also deal with this program by the World Bank? And what's the progress or any updates on that regard?
My unit does work, but I am not personally very involved with that program. I mentioned the Monti Commission, where I am participating with our former president, and the World Bank is also present, and that is one way of of, uh, of building the bridge or ongoing negotiation between the finance institutions and the health sector. There is a lot of will from World Bank side that they are very honestly in the process, and World Bank has been. I have some previous experiences be very important. For example, in bringing up the minority issues which have been neglected by some other institutions. So in that respect, I think that the World Bank is doing a good cause, but finding the good ways in practice, that is always a challenge for us. But as I said, I am not at the moment personally involved with the process. This is just my general assumption.
Yeah, I got some questions here on the about development financing issue. And would you have an idea how uh, a donor country like Finland contribute to global health funding? For instance, in the recent news, like Donald Trump in the US was just pulling out the United States contribution to the World Health Organization. So how does a country like Finland determine the amount of contribution to such international bodies?
Well, now I don't remember, unfortunately, the exact figures, but Finland does donate through the no, what is the right word, to the
Contribution.
WH and other institutions as well. Also contributions, yes, and also voluntary contributions. We have different kinds. Sometimes it is directed to the certain program or certain receipt. Sometimes it's for the more general purposes. The Finland has been donating to WHO. Also voluntary contributes, and also to many other institutions, for example the Council of Europe, uh, a lot. And regarding the COVID-19, then Finland has been donating especially to the development of the vaccine since last spring, when the disease outbursted. So, and that is probably one of the reasons that why we have sort of the good relationships, because when you donate, you also somehow can have a not choose what you donate, but if the equity is important to us, then we can donate voluntarily to the programs with our decrease in the equity between different within the population.
And also, Sarita, you mentioned about the importance of EU unity. And then recently I watched the short interview by Prime Minister Sana Marin when she becomes the cover of Time magazine. She was actually vocal about the absence of coordination among EU countries, even in testing, tracing. Um, so within the setup of the European Union, is there particular body or unit that should do the coordination, or in general, what do you think is the problem? Why the lack of coordination? Is it institutional problem or?
I think it's in a way it's institutional since EU is still working on very much in silos, as like many governments, but EU especially, and coming out of the silos and working together is not always easy. We have come forward, but there's a special challenge in the area of health and of changing the information and coordinating what the Prime Minister Marin has said. Uh, goes back to the one what I said in the very beginning, that the competence on health issues relies mainly on the member states. The member states have not wanted to give the competence to the union level. So therefore, there cannot be an existing structure or body to coordinate something what is not on EU's competence. And now EU has come up with very ambitious and in sometimes also far-reaching health union program, and that is one of the answer to solve these issues. And those initiatives are now they have been presented. They are moving forward very fastly, and the negotiations are ongoing, and we will see. But it has been Finland's stand that we wish to have more and better coordination.
About the flow of information in global health, let's say in the pandemic. So how does it flow? I mean, you have the THL locally, and then there's the European CDC. There's also the World Health Organization. So how in practice, how does the flow with information and decision making goes? Yeah, you got the question about, in particular, how does it work? World Health Organization, European CDC, and then THL. I can't seem to. Yeah.
You cannot hear me?
Now I can. Now I can. Oh, we lost you again. Or I'm the one not just hearing. Um, can you say something, Rebecca or Ahi? I can see.
Yeah. Sarita, we can't hear you.
So yeah, about Sarita, we cannot hear Sarita. Yeah, I cannot hear you still, but I heard you a bit. Uh, is it in the microphone or still can't hear you? Yeah, sorry, she doesn't know what happened. What should we do? It's maybe the participants can say something, or yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe you could unplug your headset, but I don't know if that does anything. Maybe Zoom just sometimes it doesn't. It stops working on Zoom. I think the sound.
So unplug the handset and then put back.
I think she tried already. Maybe.
I should. Yeah. But class, would you like to have any comments? I mean, because at least Sarita can still hear us. We only have about 5 minutes left, so try mute, and then if I say I ask you to unmute, yeah, I still can't hear you on that. So what? Um, should we connect again? So how do we do this, Sarita? If you have the link for the, I don't know whether. Okay, I don't know. If you would connect back again or what? Yeah. Yeah, let's try that one. Let's try. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts while we're waiting for Sarita? By the way, you're open to propose a meeting time for me for next week. So it's free. You can just propose to me because I've set out that week for you to propose a meeting for me to discuss the progress of your essays and also in preparation for your presentations. Yeah, time is running fast actually, and then we only have a few sessions left.
Don, can I
Yeah,
ask a question about the presentations?
yeah,
In our group, we didn't know yet when is our time to present. Have you
yeah.
given out time? So
Yeah, it's no specific time yet, but it's gonna be on the either 4th or 5th of March.
okay, so we're not deciding in advance like who's going to give the presentation on
Yeah,
the 4th. And yeah,
yeah,
okay.
not yet, but remember that we will be having double sessions during those days. So on the 4th of March, we'll have the conflicts session, and then the 5th we have the environment session. Um, so afterwards, we'll have yeah, Sarita is coming. So we'll have the presentation after or before the seminars. So Sarita is back. Hope we could hear her at least for yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Sarita. Now,
Hello. Now I'm back.
yeah.
Oh, great to hear you. I didn't know what happened. I didn't do anything.
Okay, sure.
But I think it was
Nice.
something happened.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope you had a chance to discuss
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
meanwhile. Okay, great. So how you would, we still have few minutes, how you would like to
Yeah, maybe we still have 5 minutes. So we're about to close now. Well, I asked the question about the flow of information in a situation where there are different actors involved, like the THL, World Health Organization, and the European CDC.
To put it short, first we use all the existing formats and meetings. Then we rely a lot on the existing networks. What we have, lots of exchange have been, or information has been changed via authorities or researchers who already know each other. So it's in a way it's a bit informal, but it also means that you have to take in a lot of information in a very short amount of time and come up with the solutions, and there you also need to discuss with others. It means a lot of reading. It means a lot of change of organizing meetings. It means a lot of emails. It means a lot of phone calls. It means it's sometimes it has been a bit chaotic, but also we have became more and more structural also in redesigning our information flow. But it has proven that we don't have a system for these kind of situations well enough.
Yeah. So I think is there any other questions from the participants today? Otherwise, Ella?
Oh, yeah, I could ask. Just thank you for your presentation. It was really interesting. I would have been interested to hear a little bit about your path. Like, did you also study some health issues or just social sciences? And
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a very good question to end. Thank you very much for that. I didn't study health at all. And so I did my major in political science and social sciences. I studied some French and EU studies when I started my studies in 1996 in the Jyväskylä University. Finland has just joined to the EU, and there was a new program on the EU studies, and then I have some others, and I have expertise on rhetoric, and I think it has gave me a good base for different kind of work here in the ministry. And as a social scientist, I have been able to, as many of my colleagues, to change different files also. But then I do have colleagues who have a very strong health background. We have, of course, doctors, a lot of doctors here. We have lawyers, but we also have. I have studied rhetoric, but I have anthropology and many others, and also, of course, lots of who have studied the international relations. So the mixture here in our ministry is very wide, and here at the international unit, I think majority of them, of my colleagues, have studied international relations, but in the you may know this, I think some of you at least know that the political science of the Jyväskylä University does not make a difference between the national and international politics. It's about politics and perhaps a world politics, and I think that has been a very, very good background for me. And also, as I mentioned, that this work requires a lot of writing skills and negotiation skills, and therefore the rhetoric as a scientific background has been also quite useful. But what I would like to say to you is that engage in the studies what you like, where you feel comfortable. There is always areas which are at times more fashionable than the others, but I would very much encourage you to study and pursue career paths where you feel like that you are comfortable with. Some of us are more sort of security oriented and want to have a career where they have they can fixed on the certain area or on a certain path. Some are more adventurous, and I think that we all have to do what feels good for us, and then it's the right thing to do. And regardless of what is your academic background or your previous work experience, you can do a lot of things, and you will shine if you like what you do. That would be my advice for you.
Oh, that was a beautiful way, inspiring way to end the session. So we would like to thank you, Sarita, for your generous time and also for sharing your expertise and experience that are very much valuable for us. So thank you very much, and take good care. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
For
Thank you
having
so
me,
much.
and have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Have a nice
You're
weekend.
great.
Yes, that's true.
Bye bye.
Yeah, soon. Thank you, Sarita.
Have a nice weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Yeah. Next week we'll go to Finchurch Aid, the biggest humanitarian organization in Finland, to talk about global education. To answer Rebecca, I'll just have to switch off the recording.